Namaste. Thank you for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about history of geography. Why do I want to talk about that? Because it's all related to our spiritual growth, and it can help us to understand who we are and what's going on our planet. Let me remind you that in my previous video, I already spoke about the evolution of the human race. I was talking about different races, and we are race number 3, or civilization number 3 if you wish. I mean number 5, and we have 2 more to come after our time is done here. And with each change, our planet and the climate on the planet change as well, and the shape of the land also changed due to catastrophic events and due to sort of climate change. Why this happened? Because everything that we know on this level was born supposed to die. So it has its peaks and it goes down, and then it's changed to something else. So let me tell you a little bit of how the planet evolved with us. And before I forget, I just wanted to mention that it's written in all scriptures, in old knowledge, in many different books that I've read, that people and sort of evolution of human beings was never sort of connected to the animal kingdom. They are separate from us. They have their evolution, we have our evolution. We were never coming in contact with them, and we did not come from the monkeys or apes. They have their own evolution, and a theory of Darwin I strongly believe that is wrong, and it's still yet to be proven, and it's still a theory, but I think they will have a hard time proving that we came from monkeys. So my view is correlated with the view of Plato and different other teachings that I was lucky to kind of put my hands on and read. So let's go back to the planet Earth. So when the planet started to become sort of more solid, and the first land was forming, so the name of this first land was, we don't even have a real name. It's like a qualities of the land called Adamantine Holy Land. So this was the place for the first humans to appear, and they were not like far away from the shape and form that we call humans today. They were not a solid bodies. They were more sort of a thin bodies, and just started to form their shape and thickening a little bit, but still not human in the sense that we kind of know what human is. So that the Holy Land, it's a place sort of the first human being, and it's also will play a role and will be the last place of human being at the end of our civilization. After the 7th race will develop and die, so there will be probably one standing man who will be used, whose semen will be used to continue the evolution, to continue that another circle of the huge sort of circle of yugas, the one that I already mentioned before. So that was the first land and first sort of solid land, and many believes that it's somewhere on the North Pole. We have no access to it because it's covered by ice, and probably for a good reason. We are not to go there, we are not to disturb something that is still very holy, and that's why we cannot get access to it. We only will be getting access to it after another catastrophic event, and more likely most of us will die and will not be able to see it, which is fine too, because we need to focus on our race, on our civilization, and we need to focus on who we are right now, where we are. This is our time, and this is what we need to be focusing on, how we are affecting the planet and what we are doing here. So the second sort of evolution of geography is called Hyperborea. So Hyperborea is the place, it's also up north, but sort of lower down. It's, I think, where the sort of Siberia and Asia now. So this is sort of land appearing and getting bigger, so human can occupy that part of the land. And again, the land appears after the catastrophic events, and humans become more sort of shaped and solid in a sense of the body mass. Hyperborean, they are not even they're like godly creatures. They are not what we can even imagine today, because they are still sort of far away from how we reproduced those days. They more of sort of like laying eggs, and they have both sexes in them. So it's totally different in a biological sense as well. Godly creatures, they would have no war, they would have no sort of negative emotions. They're very spiritual beings. Definitely we have very little information about that race and about that land and what was going on, but at least we know the shape of the planet was evolving with our evolution, with the new qualities that we would gain. Same with the planet, the temperature and climate would change, and the shape, geographical shape of land would change as well. At that time there was no illnesses, there was no war. Those people lived for thousands of years, peace, and they were just like a sort of holy existence with no progress in the terms that we know what progress means and what it means to us. So that's what the Hyperborean and Boreans, it's very tall, holy people. That, if you need to summarize, that's probably what would that be, and those people were living on that land. The third one is Lemuria and Lemurians, the people who lived there. So that, again, after catastrophic events that periodically happened on our planet, and it's not just the earthquakes, not just volcano eruptions, it's also like comets and meteors that would hit the planet. So it's always been in a motion, it's always been in a change, and as a result it would change the climate, change the appearance change what we do here as well. So the Lemurians in Lemuria, they occupied the place where today we have Madagascar, Ceylon, and Sumatra. So they called continent of Mu. Again, we know very little about that. We can read Plato actually wrote a lot about that, and how he got the knowledge, I am not sure, I don't know. But if you will be able to find that was translated in English and read, it's fascinating. So Lemurians, they're quite tall as well, you know, I would say about 18 to 20 meter people, but with their evolution from the beginning to the end, they evolved as well, and their shape and appearance was changing as well, so they would become sort of less in size. They were very spiritual people in a sense that they had still that connection with the godly creatures, with the divine. And what they did, they used, it's fascinating, they used their vocal, the sound, to produce and to control, if you wish. Or so technically the vibration, they would sing, they would sing mantras, and that vibration was so strong and so pure that they would have an effect on animals, an effect on plants and everything around them with the singing of the mantras. And so they would control climate with that, but they had to, like, this is how, you know, mantras came in. They would produce those sounds, and they would be able, the sound is energy, right? So when they would sing or sit in meditation and produce that sound and vibration, they connect to the higher spirit, and they would get that energy coming back to them, and it's a creative, pure, godly energy. And they got so much of it that they had to store it. They were building huge buildings to store that energy. And I read somewhere that one of the theory about the pyramids, it was the sort of a storage room for that godly energy that Lemurians would capture and gather and use. So that's quite interesting, and that sound and the vibration was playing a huge role in their life. That's how would they communicate. They would produce that wave of sound, and their relatives or loved one far away, they can feel it, and that's how they would communicate, just with that vibration. But what happened in the result, that their third eye, which turned into pituitary gland, sort of became less and less intuitive, and the speech developed, and that's how we started to sort of shift in a different direction, with less intuition and more vocabulary, and we are affecting each other and influencing each other with our words, with our vibration and sound. And that's why it's important, very important, to remember that whatever we say has energy and has potential to either harm and destroy or create. So you have to be very careful what's coming out. Because when at the end of their civilization, Lemurians, they became more controlling, and they were controlling animals, and they were controlling the climate, and everything became, instead of like, oh, I can create, another sort of part of it was, oh, I can control. And with the control came negative sort of feelings like fear or anger and so on, and then the feelings of, oh, I'm afraid of, unknown, so I better create a sound of protection or control to gain control over what I am not seeing, or I'm not in charge, or I don't know what it is. So that's how the feelings became, and that's how, if you wish, the black magic started, because dark, I don't want to call them mantras, but dark spells started to be born, and with that, the other, a part of people, other people feeling that, started to create sort of protective mantras, and this is how people started to be sort of in a conflict, because one wanted to control the other, one was afraid of another, and this is how the whole thing started. So it's the sound and its quality that can either create or destroy, and this is quite important aspect, because with that, when they were ability to control climate, then they started to control rain, storms, tsunamis, earthquakes, and what's not. And this is how they started to affect negatively our planet, and the planet started to be unsettled, and many catastrophic events started to happen all over. And as a result, they pretty much were wiped off the planet by the huge catastrophic events. And then when they were done with their time, after Lemurians, Atlantis appeared. So Atlantis, it's a grandchildren of Lemurian, but they are very different. They are, again, would have a male and female sexes. They would reproduce differently. They would be able to give a birth, and they were still tall, but not as tall as Lemurians. They would from 3 to 6 meters tall, and they were great builders as well. And we have a lot of things that we can see today that not belong to our race as we think, but it was a leftover, if you wish, from the civilization of Atlanteans. And their land was also different, and it's not just a one island that drowned under the water, as in a legend that we all know. It was way bigger land, but again, it was torn apart when they sort of dismissed the divine, dismissed the spirituality, and dismissed the connection with the higher spirits and the higher cosmos, and started to believe in their own power, in the man as a god. So and that's why we can see a lot of statues, and we think it's a Greeks or Roman, but it's actually the leftovers from the Atlantean sort of civilization, and it shows us that they believed in themselves, which is fine as well. But if you disconnect yourself from the divine, and you don't use mantras in a good way, you don't use sound in a good way, then that connection is actually the creative holy energy that you are cutting off. So you're leaving yourself with no source of good energy, and you are on your own pretty much. So for those who does not believe in God or any other form of shape of creator that created all this, it's up to you. And when you say it's only me who achieved this, what I have, it's don't forget about the karma, and don't forget about who created you and who created the whole universe, because by dismissing all that, you're on your own, and your energy is for any darker matter to grab, and you're not as strong to withstand that. So and that's why Atlanteans eventually left the surface of the planet, because they were disconnected, and they were again starting to use the black sort of magic and harming each other, and using their negativity to sort of become stronger and more successful on behalf of destroying someone else instead of helping each other. And they started to fight each other, and the energy became negative energy, and all that negative energy became a source, a food, if you wish, for darker matter, for darker creatures that are here on the planet, and we know their existence. So instead of being a sort of a battery for them, because every time you are angry or fearful or stressed, you lose your energy, and it's a negative energy, but you still lose it, and you feel tired and empty after that. When you're creating, you feel more happy and inspired, and you feel more energetic, and you can analyze that on your own, and see how you feel after a good fight, or see how you feel after a project that you really enjoy doing. You will feel different, and you will know that when you are creating, when you are in connection with the higher sort of divine spirits, you get energy from them, instead of when you're wasting your energy on your emotions, and especially on negative emotions. You are empty, they are emptying you, you are a battery. So it's up to you, either you want to be a battery for some darker spirits. So anyhow, so the last land I wanted to talk about, we call Europe, but technically it was way bigger than Europe. The North and South America was connected to that continent, and it was one. It was one, and only when it separated and was sort of drifting away, now it became two continents, but it was one, and they called it Europe. And there was a huge continent that was destroyed before our time. And if you want to Google a maps of Hyperborean, for example, period, or Lemurian period, it is available on Google. You can all, and I will try to find and add it to my video to show you how we have those maps in the museums now as well, and how the shape of the land was different. So we are in a constant change, as individuals, as a group, as a family, as a country, as a planet, and as continent. Like, it's always changing, and we have to understand that this is how life goes. So we can decide for ourselves, either we want to be a good and positive change, or we want to be something that destructive change. This is something that we can control. And again, instead of being a battery, like energy battery for the darker matter, darker spirits. We can be a connector. Like when I meditate in the morning, all I'm asking is just to be able to transfer the godly energy, the spiritual energy through me to people that I will meet today and help them, because I on my own I cannot help. I don't know how. I can't even help myself really. But when I'm connected to the higher spirits who created me, who knows my needs, and who knows the needs of others, through me they can help others. And by doing that, they also helping me as well while I'm helping others. If you leave your house with a thought of, I will share that godly energy with everyone I meet today, you already sort of set your mind to be a good, positive, creative person and help your surroundings to be changed to a positive one. So this is interesting. Instead of coming out of your house in a survivor mode, it's like, oh my God, I'm gonna be fighting today at work. I'm gonna be unhappy while I'm gonna be buying groceries. Everything gonna irritates me, and I'm afraid of this, or I hate this. You suddenly leaving your house, it's gonna be good. I'm gonna be helping people. I'm gonna be feeling good about myself, and people are gonna be nice to me, and I'm gonna be nice to them. And this is actually will change your day, will change your life, and you will see it for yourself. You just have to start to practice. And regardless of how much time we have as a race or as a person, it doesn't matter, as long as you practice it every day to be a better person, a better human being, create a good reality. This is what's matter in your spiritual development. This is good for your soul. This is good for your spirit. This is good for your life as a spiritual being. This practice will help you through your lives, not just this life. And this is very important to understand, and this is the knowledge that I was studying, and this is the knowledge I want to share with you, because you are creating your own reality. You are creating your own life by what kind of energy you are spreading around you, what kind of mantras coming out of your mouth. If your sound is positive and constructive, then this is what's going on around you, and everyone will be feeling it, and you will be feeling it, because that's what you're going to get back. And you're resolving your karma, you are reducing your karma, and you are growing spiritually. And on that note, I wish you to be filled with positive and creative energies and radiate happiness and love. I wish you would have a wonderful day, and thank you for watching. If you like my video, don't forget to put the like on, and maybe share with your friends or sign up for my site. It will help develop to grow, and ask me questions. I'll be more than happy to answer them next time. Until then, have a wonderful day, and I love you all. Namaste.